Tashidelek, and good evening, respected Venerable Geshe, and good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, everyone present here. I hope I am audible. I'm Pallavi Chumki Barwa. Thank you. And I, on behalf of Nari Gatsaling, welcome you all to the 10th and the final session of the online teaching program on the Lam Rim, the graded path to enlightenment, which was conducted by Nari Gatsaling in collaboration with Tibet House, New Delhi. We began these teachings on 12th of June, 2021, and the topics that we have covered till date are Introduction to Lam Rim, Precious Human Rebirth, Four Noble Truths, Law of Karma, Cause and Effect, the 12 Links of Dependent Origination, Bodhichitta, Part 1 and Part 2, and Wisdom of Emptiness, Part 2. And I believe I am speaking for everyone present here that these teachings have enriched us for all times to come. The recordings of these teachings are available on YouTube, and anyone who has missed it can go to YouTube and check them out. So 21st of August 2021, today is our last class and on the Lam Rim, but we hope and aspire that we will have many more classes on different aspects of Buddhism. We are hugely indebted to Geshe, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, the director of Tibet House, Delhi, without whose guidance, generosity, and constant support from him, we would not have been able to have these sessions. So Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdullah, we are so grateful to you for taking out your precious time and teaching us. So today is the session on Wisdom of Emptiness, as I have already mentioned. And without much further ado, I now request Geshe-la to take over the reins of this class.
Thank you, Ms. Chumgila. Thank you so much. And our member secretary, Farizala Tenzil Hamala is here. Ishil Hamala, right?
Yes, Geshe. Hello, Geshe.
Yes. And all the members of executive members of Ngari Gazeling, and I'm sure Mr. Bhaskarji, the president, he is very busy as always, and all the participants here. So last time we introduced the four seals, why the wisdom of emptiness plays a very important role for us. And let's not forget to do a quick review of what we did earlier. One is be kind to yourself. The number two is be wisely kind to yourself. So this is an overview of what we did thus far. The next part is how to be wisely kind to yourself. How to be wisely kind to yourself. For that matter, there are the short terms and the long-term plans. Short-term plan, of course, we need to think about impermanence. We need to think about the reality of interdependency and so forth. And the long-term effect, wake up from the sleep of ignorance. In this connection, when you wake up, what happens is that we come to discover that what we see as real is empty of being real. So this is meaning of emptiness. What we see, all the functional worlds that we see, that we hear, that we experience, are all empty of being real. The way and manner in which you wake up, you come to discover that the dream that you had before was not real. And what's the benefit? The moment you discover that the dream you had before was not real, your fears dissolve. In other words, you stopped to be affected by the contents of the dream. This is when your mind is freed from the fears of the dream. This is when your mind finds the ultimate rest. Okay, so the question is, how can we wake up? How can you realize that what we're seeing, these are not real? These are empty of being real. How can I know that? This question. Okay, so last time we laid the ground, the pertaining to the four seals. We did that, and today we plunge into what is emptiness. But I must warn each one of us, when we speak about emptiness, that we are not to compromise the understanding of dependent origination, which as well is what I explained last time. And this time, let us begin with two questions. And in other words, anybody who likes to delve into the emptiness analysis or emptiness meditation, we must begin with these two questions. And the tendency for the people is that when you plunge into the concept of emptiness, oftentimes one slides down into nihilism. So to protect oneself from falling into nihilism, we must begin our analysis with these two questions. The first question is, do things exist? This is the first question. Do things exist? Of course, it's a very simple question, but these questions you will find the weight of these questions, particularly when you already plunge in emptiness and then you get a little lost there. You remind yourself of the two questions, then it will help you it will rescue you from falling into nihilism. The first question is, do things exist? If your answer is no, everything is empty. If this is your answer, no, you fall into nihilism. Do things exist? The first question. Only if you pass this question, you are entitled to go to the second question, and then you are entitled to go into emptiness. Till that point, if you don't pass the first question, you are not entitled to do any analysis of emptiness. So the first question is, do things exist? Answer should be yes. Things like what? Things like the self, the person, things like you, things like the COVID, things like happiness, suffering, karma, things like the UNO, things like, let's say, the compassion, things like intelligence. All these things exist. If you say no, you fall into nihilism. You are not entitled to go into emptiness at that point. Only if you say yes, then you can go into the second question. The second question is, do things exist objectively? Do things exist as objectively real? This is the second question. Here, if you say yes to the second question, you fall into absolutism. If you say yes to the second question, do things exist objectively? Do things exist as objectively real? If your answer is yes, you fall into absolutism, extreme of absolutism. So again, it will not take you into emptiness. So the answer should be that do things exist as objectively real? Answer should be no. Things are empty of being objectively real. This takes us to emptiness. The next question is, how do we know that? How do we know that things are empty of objective reality? How do we know that? Okay, for this, I'm going to take you to the study of what is known as establishing emptiness with the help of four essentials. In other words, establishing emptiness with the help of the reasoning of the four essentials. Establishing emptiness through the reasoning of four essentials. Okay, this is what we're going to study here very quickly. And then once you get some sense, don't remain complacent. Keep exploring more, keep studying more, keep reflecting more. And once you get adequate studies and reflection, we are then to implement, translate them into meditation to bring about actual the transformation of one's emotions. Okay, the four essentials. The first, let me enumerate what the four essentials are. One, the essential of identifying the object of negation. The essential of identifying the object of negation, number one. Number two, the essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Essential of understanding the objects being one with its parts. Okay, sorry. Essential to understand the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Number two, essential for understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Number three, essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being different from its parts. And then finally, the essential of understanding the pervasion. The essential of understanding the pervasion, that anything which is empty of being one with and different from its parts entails the emptiness of the objective existence of the object. Let me repeat it. The fourth one, emptiness of, the essential of the pervasion, that anything which is empty of being one with and different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. Let me repeat it. Number one, essential of understanding the object of negation. Number two, essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Number three, essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being different from its parts. Number four, essential of understanding the pervasion, that anything which is empty of being one with and different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. Okay, conclusion. Therefore, emptiness of objectivity of the object is the objectivity of the object. Let me repeat it. Therefore, emptiness of objectivity of the object Okay. Therefore, emptiness of objectivity of the object is the objectivity of the object. Okay, now we have to proceed through this. We have to proceed through the understanding each of the points. One, the essential of understanding the object of negation. When we say emptiness, negate means to understand that something is not there. Negate. When we say emptiness, you are saying that something is not there, something is empty. Empty of what? This question, empty of what? So what we said is that everything exists with the first question. Everything exists, the self exists, you exist, karma exists, everything exists. So what is empty? What is empty? This question. Things are empty of what? This question. So what we said is that the things are empty of being objectively real. Things are empty of being objectively real. There's no objective reality there. So objective reality is negated. objective existence is negated, or objective reality is negated. So if we ask, when we speak about emptiness, the first essential, identifying the object of negation. What is the object of negation? What do you reject? What do you negate? We negate objective existence. This is what one. Had it been the case that we have more days, we have more sessions, then of course we have to do a little bit of interactive discussion. Given that we don't have that much time, so you should bear with me. At times it may become a little technical. Okay. Now the next question is, what does it mean by objective existence? The first point that we learned as a part of the essential identified object negation is, what is object negation? We said the objective existence or objective reality is to be negated. This is what deceives us. It does not exist. So this is to be negated. To say that what I'm seeing is not real. So when we say when we do some prank, right? People come in the guise of a ghost, and then the other person, who you're trying to scare, the person is so scared, thinking that it's a real ghost there. And when the person discovers that it's not the real ghost, you are the person, the husband, wife, children, son, daughter, whatever, then the person feels relief, knowing that what I saw earlier was empty of being a ghost, empty of being a real ghost. So the real ghost was negated from the person's mind. Person feels relaxed. Person feels relieved. Likewise, what we're seeing, okay, just pick up something from your table. Whatever you have near you, just pick that up. Pick that up and show that to me. Good, show that to me. Very good. And whatever you're showing, look at it yourself. Look at it with your own eyes to see how does it appear, as how it appears to you. How it appears to you. Does it appear like the dream that your mind is creating, or does it appear as like so objectively real there? Answer is yes, it appears so objectively real. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Very good. So that is a deception. Seeing that the object is so real there, nothing to do with mind, as my mind is the projector. It is something so real that is deception. That appearance of that object is a deceptive appearance, and your engagement with this object as real, you treating this object as object real, that is deception. That is self-grasping ignorance. This is ignorance which binds us in the dream of samsara. And as long as we're in the dream of samsara, we're being affected by the dream. Sometimes it's a pleasant dream, sometimes it's a very unpleasant dream. This is how we just lose our freedom. The dream dictates whether you're happy or not happy. The dream dictates. Nothing is in your hand. The moment you come out, the dream has no say on you. You're freed from being affected by the dream. That is when your mind finds rest from being affected by the dreams. Okay, so this is the object that you're looking at. It seems so object real. And how can I say that what I'm seeing is not real? Okay, let us not forget. Now we examine if what we see is real, objective real, whether it exists that way. So for that, let us remember what Nagarjuna said in his text, Ratnamala, or the Precious Garland. In the text, Precious Garland, what he said was, if the mirage were to be water, why not those close by the mirage see water? If the mirage were to be water, why not those close by the mirage see water? Say, if I'm 1 kilometer away from you, and you see that I'm floating in the water, you're just wondering, is it really that he's floating in the water, or what I'm seeing is the mirage? So how do you evaluate? The best way to evaluate that is by coming closer towards where I am. As you come closer towards where I am, you see that this is totally dry. There's nothing really, there's no water there. Then you conclude that what you earlier saw as water was deceptive. You conclude that what you earlier saw was not a water, it was a mirage. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Okay. In other words, how many agree with me to say that what you are seeing, to evaluate, to the best way by which to evaluate what you are seeing as water or mirage is by coming closer towards me? Raise hands. Okay, good. Good. Likewise, if this object, let's say, if this object, this flower were to exist objectively, then why not we see this flower? Why not we see this flower as we go closer to this object? If what we see is, if what we are seeing is water, then why don't we, see the water as we go closer to it? Likewise, if what we're seeing is an objectively real flower, why don't we see the flower as we go closer to this object? Okay, how many of you agree with me that this is a sensible approach? Very good. Okay, now let us go closer to the object. Let us go closer to the object. Or going closer to the object, this is very important. Going closer to the object, what goes closer to the object? Your mind, because your mind is the one which analyzes it. Your mind analyzes. The deception is also happening on your mind, and to evaluate whether it is deception or not is also evaluated by your mind. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Finally, we have to employ the mind. Very good. Okay. Now, this mind which engages with the object, sometimes it is deceptive, sometimes it is valid, sometimes it is just neutral. So, and what we see is that this mind, which is supposed to be employed to analyze, to evaluate whether or not what we are seeing is the objective real. So this mind, do you agree with me or not, that this mind is of two kinds? Two kinds, meaning that, for example, I'll say that the florist, a florist who sells flowers and who plants flowers, who sells flowers. So about the particular flower, this florist is the best person, the one with the best knowledge pertaining to this flower. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Very good. About this flower, don't ask Albert Einstein. He's a genius. But his concept about the flower, they say when should this flower be planted, for how long this flower lasts once it is blossomed, and how long will it take for the buddings to the blossom as flowers, and for how long it will take from the seed to the state of the flower. How long does it take? All these, the florist or the gardener is expert, not Einstein, not Stephen Hawking, but the gardeners. They are the best person to know that. But now, do you agree with me? Okay, this much do you agree that for the flowers, the best person to ask about the flowers is the gardeners, not Einstein? How many agree with me? Raise hands. Very good. So their perception of flower, that is the standard. The gardener's perception of flower, that's the standard. But if you ask the gardener, right, in one flower, how many atoms are there? Right? So which flower is pink? Oh, this flower is pink. So which of the atom is pink? If you ask this question, the gardener, the best of the gardener, of course, who's not a physicist, who's not exposed to the physics, but the best of the gardener in the world, even he will not have answer. Raise hands. Very good. What combination of the atoms will make this rose flower? He has no answer. Which means that that he's the best of the person to speak about the flower, but there are questions pertaining to the flower which even he cannot answer. Which means that the questions about the flower, there are two kinds. One, which the gardener can respond so well. The gardener is the authority on this. And there are some areas even the gardener cannot give answers. So, in other words, there are two analyses. One analysis, which the gardener is the best person, is the final testimony to the concept of this flower. And there are other sides of the flower which even the gardener cannot give. That an other analysis which is beyond the gardener's capacity to understand. There are two. So those concepts which the gardener's authority in, these are finalized by the gardener's mind. Gardener's mind is authority pertaining to some core aspects of the flower. Those minds of the gardener is known as the conventional analysis of the gardener, conventional analysis of the flower. Conventional analysis, because it's a gardener's convention, which is the best of the conventions to talk about the flower. So that is a conventional analysis pertaining to the flower. And there are those analyses which even the gardener, the best of the gardener, cannot give the answer. So these analyses are known as analysis beyond the convention of the gardener's capacity, beyond the convention of the gardeners. Beyond the convention is known as ultimate. So those analyses which the gardeners cannot involve in are known as the ultimate analysis of the flower, and which the gardener's authority in, they are known as the conventional analysis of the flower. So we see that with the same flower, there are two analyses. There are two different minds. One set of minds, which are the minds of the gardener, the best of the gardeners, who gives perfect answer to a set of questions. So those minds are known as conventional analysis of the flower. And there are some aspects which the gardener's mind cannot give the answer, which means conventional analysis cannot give the answer. So these require another set of analysis. Those analyses are the analysis which crosses the border of the conventionality of the gardeners. So those analyses known as, or the analysis which crosses the border of the conventionalities is known as the ultimate analysis. Okay, although you may not fully get it, but okay, at least intellectually, what is said makes sense. Raise hands. Very good, I'm happy. Okay, in other words, with the same object, we see that there are two kinds of analysis: conventional analysis and the ultimate analysis. For example, if I say that, okay, if you ask me, where is Dorji? Then I'll say, I'm here. Okay, this accords with the conventional world. And then after you seeing me, when I raise my hand, it says, I'm here. And then you ask me, okay, which part of you is Dorji? Your hand, or your eyes, or your heart, lungs, your mind, and so forth? Then you will never find Dorji. How many agree with me? Raise your hands. Very good. So those analysis which cross the border of the conventional world is known as ultimate analysis. So there are two sets of mind. One which engages with the conventional analysis, and the other ultimate analysis. It is for this reason that in Heart Sutra, the Buddha taught, form is empty. Let's say that, okay, here, let's say the people from the northern part of the world and the southern part of the world. Let's divide the two. And northern part of the world, you look at this through your naked eyes, which means according to conventional world. And the southern, those from the southern part of the world, you go beyond the convention. In other words, you use the electron microscope. And how many you think that using electron microscope you'll see flower? How many you say that no, you use electron microscope? Flower makes no sense. Flower will disappear. You only see the electrons, protons, neutrons. Raise hands. Very good. Okay, so those from the north, you look at through your naked eyes, and those from the south of the planet Earth, you look at it through electron microscope. So what the electron microscope sees, is that the reality of the flower? Is it there or not there? Say, through electron microscope, you see this, you don't see flower, you just see bunch of electrons, protons, neutrons. Is that the reality or not? That's a reality, yes. And then when you look at through naked eyes, that's also reality. But you see two different things. One is a beautiful object as a flower, and the other just, the electrons, protons, neutrons. There's no concept of beauty there. How many agree with me in a sense? Okay, very good. Now, we see this object, what we call as a flower, through electron microscope. This is something beyond comprehension of the gardeners. Gardeners will not touch that. Which through the electron microscope, what do you see? Gardeners will talk about, oh, this is a flower, this grows in the summer, this is, this will grow to this size, and this has only this color, and this hybrid. So this is what they can talk. They cannot talk about electrons, protons, neutrons. Okay. Now the point is that our mind, which engages with the flower, there are two minds. One which engages in line with the conventions of the flower, and the another which engages with the flower beyond the conventions of the flower, which engages with the convention of the flower in line with the conventions of the flower. We call it conventional analysis. And the other mind, which engages into the analysis beyond the convention, we call it ultimate analysis. Okay, this is going to be a little technical. There's no way. You have to bear with me. Okay, so we see that there are two analyses. So the same object, when you look at through your eyes or the gardener's eyes, you see as a flower. The same object, you look at through electron microscope, you don't see flower. Flower is not there. You just see atoms, electrons, protons, neutrons. That's it. No flowers. So it's for this reason that in Heart Sutra, the Buddha said that the form is empty. In other words, people through naked eyes, what they see as a form is what people who look at through electron microscope will see is empty. That the flower is empty. And then whereas emptiness is form. What the same object which is seen by the people looking through electron microscope, they see them as empty of form, empty of flower, is seen, the same object seen as flower by those looking at it through naked eyes. So form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The next line, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than the form, which means that, for example, let's say you are looking at this through electron microscope, I'm looking through my naked eyes. What is seen as flower to me is what you see as empty of flower. What you see as empty of flower is what I see as a flower. How many agree with me in a sense? Very good. Okay. Now, emptiness is not other than the form, and form is not other than emptiness. Means that what you are seeing as emptiness is not different from what I'm seeing as a flower. It's the same object. And what I'm seeing as a flower is not different from what you are seeing as the emptiness of the flower. It's the same object. So the point is that when you see this as the flower, then my reaction to the object, my emotional reaction to the object is very different. When you see the same object as emptiness flower, your emotional reaction is again very different. Okay. So with this in mind, what we said is that after identifying the object of negation, that when you look at this flower, as we said earlier, anything that is next to you, that you picked up, like the flower, you look at it, you see this as objectively real, not like coming from your mind, as from the object. If it does exist from this is known as the object of negation, the objective existence. That flower exists as object real, that is to be negated. That is deception. And how to negate it? Same, we have to first evaluate whether it truly exists as object real. If it does exist object real, then we use the Acharya Nagarjuna's text. If the mirage were to be water, why not those close by the mirage see water? So we go closer to this object to see if the flower exists objectively. Going closer to the flower, going closer to the object, what we see is that the flower disappears. Form is empty. We see the flower disappears. Instead, what we see is that we see just if you use the electron microscope, what we see is just a bunch of atoms. We see just a bunch of atoms, no flower. Okay, now you have gone too close to the object, and you only end up seeing the atoms which constitute the flower, and there's no flower. If the flower does exist objectively, these atoms should be the flower, or it should be different from the atoms. Remove the atoms, and there should be a flower seen as different from the atoms. These are only two options. If the flower does this, for example, if you say that, okay, you have stolen my Rolex watch. If you tell me that you have stolen my Rolex watch and it is in your hand now, it's in your hand. How many hands I have? I have only two hands. So what I do is that these are the only two options. I have only two hands. So when you say that I've stolen your Rolex watch and it is in my hand now, I have two only hands. So first I open the first hand. It's empty. Now it must be here in the second hand. I open it, it's also empty. Now I see that these two options, these are the only two options we have to say that the stolen Rolex watch is in my hands. Hand or hands. So these are only two options. And both options, I prove them wrong. That my right hand is empty, left hand is empty. So from this, what I can conclude is that your watch, the Rolex watch which you lost is empty of being in my hands. It's not in my hands. Likewise, if the flower does exist objectively, there are only two options. Either the atom should be the flower, because by going too close to the object, you found the atoms. Either the atoms should be the flower, or keeping aside the atoms, there should be the flower left behind as different. And if the atoms are flower, no, atoms are not beautiful, but the flower is beautiful. So atoms are not the flower. If the atoms are not flower, and still you believe that the flower exists objectively, then remove the atoms. There must be the flower hiding behind the atoms. Remove the atoms, what happens? Nothing is left there. So the flower is not seen as one with the atoms, nor seen as different from the atoms. These are the two only options for the flower to exist objectively. So when you realize that by going too close to the object, atoms are not the flower, the parts of the flower, the atoms are not the flower. No different from the atoms is the flower. When you realize this, then what you deduce is that from the object there's no flower. Okay, you may not you may not fully get it, but at least intellectually, yes, that makes sense. Raise hands. Very good. So now the point is that first we need to gain conviction intellectually. Once you gain the intellectual conviction, then our job is to do this over and over and over again. This analysis over and over again. So what is happening is that emptiness, oftentimes some of the teachers, some of the great masters, what they say is that emptiness is not really difficult. But then, we require a lot of studies. Why, if it is not difficult, why do you have to study a lot? Because that our self-grasping ignorance, the ignorance, it is like, for example, a tuberculosis. Is there anybody from the medical stream? Medical doctors, nurses, anybody? No one. Okay, no one. Okay, here sitting Yanjunla. Sitting Yanjunla, let's say that if I suffer from tuberculosis, how can he help me?
Medicate you and isolate you.
Okay, you'll isolate me or you'll quarantine me. Okay, good. Then what will you do? You'll give me medicines. Yeah, you'll give me antibiotics.
Yes.
Okay, good. You'll give me antibiotics. So how does this antibiotics help? The antibiotics help. If I take this, then
reduce the infection.
If I take these antibiotics, then my problem will be over.
Yeah, hope. Yeah, that's the hope.
Oh, that's the hope. Okay. So what I do is that I listen to the Siri Yanjanla. I listen to her, and then I take the antibiotics. Day 1. And the day 2, I still have the pain. So I go to Sri Anjanla. I said that, you said that if I take the medicines, then my problem will be over. I took the medicine yesterday. I still have the problem. So what will you say? Sri Anjala, what will you say?
Sometimes it takes time.
Or sometimes, but otherwise, you take the medicine for 1 day, then your tuberculosis is over. You have to take the medication for minimum, in many places, in many countries, minimum 6 months. In rare cases, 3 months. Minimum 3 months, you have to take the medication. 1 dose is not enough. How many agree with me, raise hands? Very good. Why? Because this illness is not like an immediate symptomatic problem. It is about the bacteria. It's about the bacteria, and to heal it, it should be healed in a process. It's not just overnight the solution. You have to work on it in the form of process for 3 months, 6 months. Likewise, our self-grasping ignorance to believe the dream is real. When you look at things around you, and I bet that you will not see even a single object as subjectively real. You will see every detail as objectively real. This is our chronic illness. This is a chronic illness. Because it is a chronic illness, we need a long time, the treatment. Long-term treatment is required. So this long-term treatment, you take the medication, for example, like the typical same medicine, isoniazid, rifampicin, ethambutol. You take these medications every day. You repeat them every day. You repeat them. This is how gradually it is like the stain with self-grasping ignorance, like the very hard stain. You scratch it, keep scratching it. Keep scratching it with the studies, reflection, meditation, studies, and scratching. And over time, you'll start to see the glow of the gold inside. The gold inside us, the Buddha nature, that is hidden by these stains. So these stains, they are not like the calcification. They are really like the stains on the They're like the stains on the aluminum. They reel the stains. You have to really keep scratching and keep rubbing it, keep rubbing it, keep rubbing it, and over time, then the glow from inside, you'll see the glow of the gold inside. Okay, this is how we have to work on it. So the point is that these 4 essentials. Number 1, identify object negation, and then number 2, working to see whether the objective existence exists. So what you do is that you go closer to this object. You employ the ultimate analysis by going closer to this object. Going closer to the object, then you see that you end up seeing just the atoms pertaining to the flower, atoms. And what we see is there, what we see from the object, if at all there's something there from the object, we see the atoms. Atoms, are they the flower? Answer is no. So atoms is just the parts of the flower. They are not the flower. So the flower is not one with its parts. This is essential number 2. The flower is empty of being one with its parts. If you know this, you have understood the second essential. What's the second essential? The essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Meaning that when you go close to the object, you end up seeing the atoms of the flower. And if you are 100% sure that the atoms of the flower, they are not the flower. How many are aware of that? Just imagine that you use an electron microscope and you go into the atom, you go into the flower and you see the atoms, just bunch full of atoms, and none of the atoms of the flower. How many are sure of that? Raise hands. Very good. If you're sure of that, this is your second essential. Essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts, atoms, one with the atoms. Atoms are not the flower. Okay, number 2 is done. Essential number 2. Essential number 3. Essential for understanding the emptiness of the objects being different from its parts. Now, if you still believe that the flower exists from the object, now from the object, what you have found are the atoms, pool of atoms. And the atoms are not the flower. If the atoms are not the flower, if you still believe the flower to be from the object, then remove the atoms. There must be the flower hiding behind the atoms. Remove the atoms, what happens? You don't find anything as a flower. So the flower is not seen as different from the atoms. From the object, you don't see the flower as different from the atoms. Remove the atoms, there's nothing left as a flower which is different from the atoms. There's nothing there. How many of you are convinced with this? Remove the atoms, there isn't going to be any flower left there as different from the atoms. How many agree? Raise hands. If you understood that, this is the third essential. Essential for understanding the emptiness of the objects being different from its parts. Okay. Once you understand this, then if the flower does exist from the object, these are the only 2 options. How many agree with me? Raise hands. If these 2 options are rejected, then the flower, there's no way by which the flower can exist objectively. How many agree? Raise hands. At least intellectually. Okay. If you agree with me, this is the meaning of the 4th seal, 4th essential. Essential of understanding the pervasion that anything which is empty of being one with and different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the flower. You got the 4th seal, 4th essential. So because of this, now what's the conclusion? Conclusion is that this flower, from the objective side, objectively, the flower is not there, right? So emptiness of objectivity of the flower is the objectivity of the flower. Objectivity meaning the emptiness of objectivity means something exists from the object. Is the objectivity. So objectivity comes twice. Second one is the objectivity of the object. Is the objectivity meaning that what is there on the object? What is there on the object? If the flower is coming from the mind, not from the object, what is there from the object? From the object, there is the second objectivity. From the second objectivity, ultimate final reality out there, that second objectivity, that nothing is there is the reality. Nothing is there from the object is the reality. Reality meaning objectivity of the object. Okay, but the last one is the last one, emptiness of objectivity of the object is the objectivity of the object. If you get a glimpse of this, that wow, that's amazing. If you get a glimpse of this, you are getting something of the emptiness. Okay, in this connection, almost like 3 years ago, I was in Israel for a conference on consciousness organized by a neuroscientist and his team, a team of the neuroscientist. He happened to be a very famous neuroscientist in Europe, and the young team was also there. And then there are several psychologists and also physicists were there. I was invited there for, to make a presentation there. And then in my presentation, I talked about this, and it just quickly explained what is emptiness. And then as conclusion, I said, emptiness of objectivity of the object is the objectivity of the object. And then the main host of the conference, brilliant neuroscientist, after conclusion of the conference, he was asking somebody, just say this line again, emptiness of the objectivity is something. And then this person brought him to me. And then I repeated that again. And he was like a small child memorizing this line. He was so fascinated by this line. Emptiness of objectivity of the object is the objectivity of the object. Like a small child, he was memorizing it. Emptiness of objectivity of the object is the objective of the object. He was memorizing it. Okay, what I'm saying that this is extremely important concept, and you see that from the object, what is there. Say from the object what is there, you're looking for the objectivity of the object. The fact that from the object there's nothing there is the objectivity of the object. Okay, this is the Buddha said in the Samadhi Raja Sutra. Just as in a dream of a young girl, she met with the boy and saw his death. Joyous was she at the meeting, and despair over his death. View all phenomena as thus. So the Buddha was bringing up strikingly contrasting emotions, excitement and a total despair, two emotions, and then seeing that both these emotions are because of the belief in the dream as real. Say you dream of meeting with your mother who you love so much, and and you are so excited with the meeting, and then you see the death of her. The very next moment, you are extremely depressed. So there's a fluctuation of emotions there. So, and then you wake up, you are so relieved. Meeting with my mother was a dream. Seeing the death of my mother was also a dream. You're totally free. This is so precious. Okay, oftentimes I give this analogy. Let's say that you dream of going for a picnic in the forest, in the wilderness after COVID. And oh, I'm so fed up being locked down in my own house. So and then we want to go for a picnic, and your family go together in the wilderness for a picnic, and suddenly in the dream, you end up by yourself in the dream, and then you meet with a tiger, and then you get to run. There's so much of fear. Initially, there's a joy of being in a picnic. Finally, after 2 years of being quarantined, lockdown, finally, with all the family members together, picnic in a forest, beautiful place. And then suddenly you end up by yourself in the dream. And then you meet with the tiger, and the tiger's almost on the verge to attack you. There's so much of fear. And suddenly your father and big group comes there, and the tiger runs away. You are so relieved. And then your dad and his team left. Again, the tiger reemerges and on the verge to attack you. I'm dead now. And then your mother wakes you up. Mother wakes you up. Wow, meeting with the tiger was just my dream. Wow, I'm so relieved. Okay, the first picnic in the dream, going for picnic, one part of the dream. Number 2, meeting with the tiger. Number 3, your dad and the team comes and the tiger runs away. Number 4, your dad leaves and the tiger comes back and about to attack you. Number 5, you wake up. Just of the 5 moments, tell me which do you like the most? Anybody raise hands? Very quick. Anybody? Ashit?
The fifth one, last one when I wake up.
Okay, how many of you agree with Ashit ji? Raise hands. The last one. Very good. This is how say the first moment is very pleasant. Going for a picnic after two long years of lockdown. Picnic. Number 3, meeting with the tiger is very is not happy. Number 4, your father came, the father and the team came, and the tiger runs away. It's very pleasant moment. Very good. And then number 5, again the tiger comes. This time, the tiger's on the verge to just get hold of you, mull you up. And then number 5, you wake up. Okay, you like the 5th one the most. Okay, so why the 5th one? Because 5th one, you are totally freed from being affected by the contents of the dream. Because you see that it was dream, it was all coming from our mind, nothing from the object. When you realize that there's nothing from the object, it's all coming from our mind, then you feel the relief. This is so precious. Anybody who wants to get away from the fears of life, this is the only way. And this is what the Buddha discovered. He did not invent. And this reality that nothing exists objectively is a reality which exists as a reality way before the Buddha Shakyamuni became a Buddha. The Buddha only discovered it. And as long as we don't discover it, we continue to be sucked up in the dream. We continue to be affected by the dream. And then if you don't want to be affected by the dream, come out of the dream, wake up to see that everything, whatever is happening around, is all just a projection of my own mind. Okay, this is so precious. And if you get a glimpse of this, then you will say initially you may have a tinge of a fear. You may get a tinge of a fear for the reason that you are discovering something which is in stark contrast with how we believe. We believe things to be objectively real. Now you discover that things are subjectively real, not from the object. There's a stark contrast of what are you discovering now with what you have been thinking of how the world exists since time immemorial. So because of this, there's a clash in the mind. When the clash happens in the mind, it is manifested in the form of a tinge of a fear. Then as you practice it more, study more, reflect more, meditate more, gradually this wisdom that you have discovered now, this will become stronger, and stronger. And like the two sides of the scale. As the one side goes up, other one automatically goes down. As the wisdom goes up, the ignorance goes down. This is reality. So this is how we overcome the ignorance, and finally we wake up from the sleep of ignorance. Okay, so this is the way. And then just see that if you can, study it. And for this, you don't have to believe in a theology. This is the best part. We don't believe in some teachers. Oh, he said it, she said it, the Buddha said it must be true, so therefore I have to believe that everything is projection. No, don't believe. Analyze. Only with analysis, you have to get the answer. With the belief, you will never get this answer. You have to get the answer only through analysis. And don't think that, oh, I'm not a smart person. I'm not a smart person, so I'm not really equipped with this, the power of the analysis. Don't think like this. Even this analysis can be cultivated, can be trained. You can train in the skill of the analysis. You can train to increase the power of your intelligence. Even the intelligence, even your mind, this is all dependently originated. By dependence on training, the mind is bound to become sharper. And with a sharp mind, you are bound to get this, the reality that things are all projected by own mind. They're like my dreams. Nothing really exists from the object. Okay, so we still have like half an hour. So I know that there are, for sure there are going to be many questions. I like to entertain questions here. Anybody, feel free to bring up your questions. Okay, Jackie.
Thank you for teaching. I wondered when you were speaking about how we engage with objects as being real. Can you give an example, like for your flower? Is it that, oh, the flower is pink? Or is it, oh, the flower is pink, I really want it, my mom likes pink and I'm going to give it to her? Is it the embellishment of the flower, or can we just say, is it being pink enough? Or do you mean we go in too far when we engage in the object when it's real?
Okay. The Jackie, it just let me paraphrase what you said, and if I got it wrong, you have to repeat it. The question is that we talk about the flower, we see the empty atoms and so forth. At the same time, we can also talk about the pink flower. Okay, my mother likes the pink flower, not as much the blue flowers, so I like to choose the pink flower. So is this the embellishment? This is what you're saying? Or this is real or not real? Is your question?
You know, close. Because earlier you mentioned we engage in objects as being real, through our deluded way of thinking. And how can you give an example of how you were engaging your flower in this deluded way of thinking? Is just saying, oh, it's pink, that deluded? Or is it, oh, it's pink, I really want it, my mom likes them and she prefers pink more than blue?
Okay, so this is a pink flower. Is this diluted or not? So let's not forget the first question. Of the two questions, before we engage in emptiness meditation, the first question: do things exist? Does pink flower exist? The answer is yes. Right? This flower, is it pink? Answer is yes. If you say no, you fall into nihilism. My mom likes pink flower. Is this pink flower? Yes. If you say no, this is dream, this is not a pink flower, you will fall into nihilism. So the pink flower exists. But when you say exists, for example, say my mom, her name is Metok. And my my grandma's name, I don't remember. Okay, let's say the Mary. So Metog is a mother with respect to me. She's a daughter with respect to Mary. So when you say the mother, daughter, and so forth, these we talk about in a frame with respect to a frame of reference. With respect to Dorji as a frame of reference, she's a mother. With respect to, say, the Mary as a frame of reference, she's a daughter. Likewise, when I say flower, pink flower, we have to bring the frame of reference. And the frame of reference is the conventional analysis. With the conventional analysis as the frame of reference, pink flower exists. Yes, it exists. And my mother exists. And my mother likes pink flower, that exists. But alongside when you say alongside picking up the pink flower, belief is there that it is objectively real. That belief is mistaken. That this is a pink flower, this is not mistaken. That this objectively real pink flower, that is mistaken. So we have to, within that, we have to separate the two things. That is a pink flower, there's nothing wrong in it. That this objectively real pink flower, that is wrong.
What would, when we think about the pink flower being objectively real, what example is that? Is like,
Okay,
you
the
get
pink flower
attached to it?
objectively,
You get
pink flower.
attached to it? Yeah.
Okay. The pink flower, we see it as objectively real. Objectively real means it's not coming from the subject. Do you agree with me? Pink flower, it exists from objective real means it exists from this object means it's not from this subject. If not from the subject, whose subject? My subject, your subject. Which means that with respect to your mind, the pink flower is becomes independent of your mind. You don't have the control of the pink flower. You don't have the control of the pink flower because it is outside your mind. Like in the dream, you see the tiger as real, not as dream, then it affects you. When you're there, oh, this is just my dream, it will not affect you.
Is that because we like it?
Okay. Okay, so how does it affect you? How does it affect you? In fact, your mind, say the flower. Your mind, what do you want? I like the flower. I like the flower. So when you say I like the flower, and then they say somebody snatches up with the flower, are you happy or not happy? Not happy. Do you like the unhappiness in you or not? You don't like it. So this unhappiness is because of you liking the flower. If you're liking the flower is not there, then the unhappiness when somebody snatches away, wow, so good. Now my table is clear. Somebody took away my flower, so good. Now I don't have to dump it. Somebody did it for me. So they say liking, generally speaking, for example, I like Buddhahood. I like to help people. There's nothing wrong in it. There's nothing wrong in it. Say, the same liking, there are two kinds. Liking with the selfish interest and liking with the interest for others. Liking with the selfish interest, that is destructive. Oh, I like it. This flower, I like it to make other people happy. To make other people happy. That is so precious. I like it because it makes me happy. It's just personal. That is destructive. There's no harm in liking it, but when the selfish interest is the driving force, then it destroys you. Okay, any more questions? Ashit?
Yes. I
Yes,
want to
Ashit.
ask that, yeah, if we are moving close enough to a flower, we see atoms, and if we go on so and so forth, what will be the last thing that we'll see? Like if you go beyond quarks and everything.
Okay, Ashit, thank you so much for bringing this issue. So as I said earlier, this duration is too short that I will not touch everything. Now you are bringing everything. Okay, so the flower, we went to the atom. Through the atom, still we can go further. Finally, tell me, say atoms. So first the flower. Flower, you end up seeing the cells. And the cells, you end up seeing the nucleus, mitochondria, cytoplasm, and so forth. And the chromosomes. And the chromosomes, again, you see the DNA molecules. And DNA molecules, you see the atoms. And the atoms, you see the electrons, protons, neutrons. So finally, what will you find? This question. Finally, you will find nothing. Objectively, nothing exists. We think something exists. That is illusion. Very good, Ashit. Okay, next, there was somebody, Guru or Purung. Purung, you are there? Yes, Purung. We cannot hear you. Unmute yourself. Please unmute. Purung. Yes.
Good morning, Gashla. Thank you for your teaching.
Good. Welcome.
My question is, when we are talking of emptiness, all the talk is of objective and subjective existence. We quote this emptiness on being absence of swabhava or being absence of an existence.
Self-characteristics. Yes.
So is that another way to approach?
Okay. So basically, the point is that the emptiness, it has various levels, like onion. Onion, you keep peeling that off. You first peel off the first layer, then the second layer, third layer. There are many layers. Likewise, emptiness, there are so many layers. So I just touch one part. And so, in fact, intellectually, we usually study 5 layers. Experientially, there are millions of layers. Experientially. And intellectually, 5. Emptiness of permanent, unitary, independent self. Emptiness of autonomous, substantial reality. Emptiness of external reality. Emptiness of true existence while not rejecting intrinsic reality. And finally, emptiness of intrinsic reality. So 5 levels we study intellectually. If you study these 5 so well, then you will identify all the various levels experientially. When you meditate, all these various levels, when they come to you, you can identify which is which. You will identify this. So these 5 are very important. You have to study them. Thank you, Purong. Okay, Jocelyn.
Good morning, Geshe. I was wondering, since although I don't know why there's an echo. I'm sorry. Although with senses, with the sense consciousness, there's many. We can have things simultaneously, but in the mind, there's only one moment and then another moment. How does an experienced person who has taken the medicine of emptiness will look at an object? There's the A, the conventional analysis, and B is the ultimate analysis. So how are we to train when we are well trained? How do we look at, let's say, the flower or anything?
Okay, Jocelyn, thank you so much. This is a good question. Say the senses, there are the 5 the sensory consciousnesses which can simultaneously arise within the individual. But the mental consciousness, don't just say mind. Mind is little ambiguous because mind pervades not only with the mental, is also the sensory. Mental consciousness and the sensory consciousness. So the better would say mental consciousness or the sensory consciousness and the mental consciousness. Mental consciousness is one at a time. But our mental consciousness, for mundane activities, our mental consciousness is so fast, so active with the mundane things, so active. And some of my friends are people who are the CEOs of the companies. They tell me that they cannot, even in the night, their mind moves so fast. Mental consciousness moves so fast. They cannot control their mind. So the point is that how we operate in the conventional world. So when you in some emergency cases, how you deal with things so fast, take decisions wisely, at the same time, very quickly you take the decisions. So our mind operate there. So, for example, your one child is interested in physics, and the other child is interested in music, and the other child is interested in sociology. Then as a mother, you do sociology here, physics here, music here, and then one painting here. And so there your mind can switch from one to the other very fast. This is out of the training. Likewise, when we train ourselves into the ultimate analysis, conventional analysis, and to switch from one to the other, that's not going to be an issue. The issue is only with to get the emptiness as the object. Once you get it, to the extent that you gain an extremely pleasant feeling within you, calmness, tranquility, you get an extraordinary tranquility. You feel that tranquility, which you never experienced before. When you get that, then that is very auspicious indication. From there you can go. From there you can go, and then it's a matter of practice of, let's say, the just switching from between two. The mothers, they do multitasking, like 10, 12, 30, 40 things they do together. And the meditators, don't worry, only two things. Ultimate analysis, conventional analysis, only two. That's much easier. Are you good, Caroline? Yes.
Thank you very much for this wonderful teaching. Gisela, my question is, how can we get a glimpse of emptiness? What can we do practically? I understand we can meditate, study, but in daily life, is there anything you suggest?
Okay, so basically what we need to keep in mind, it is like, so how to get a PhD in physics. How to get a PhD in physics? You have to study. You have to study, you have to reflect, and then you have to train in these two. Fortunately for physics, you don't have to meditate. You have only two things. But for emptiness, we need three things: study, reflect, and meditate. Study extensively. Particularly for emptiness, we have to study extensively. And if you want to know what kind of books to study, I would suggest number one would be the book by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, How to See Yourself as You Really Are. The book by His Holiness, How to See Yourself as You Really Are. This would be the first book. So this you can read, and if possible, try to get some help from some teachers. One. Then the second book that I would suggest is by Acharya Chandrakirti, Entry into the Middle Way. Entry into the Middle Way. This you cannot study on your own. This you must study with the help of a teacher. Number two. Then number three is Arya Nagarjuna's text, Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way. Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way. Third. If you can study these three books well, and then alongside chapter 9, Wisdom chapter by Bodhisattva Shantideva, Wisdom chapter. If you can study these very thoroughly, then you are ready for the meditation. That will help us to get experience of emptiness. Okay, thank you, Abelardo.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello, Geshe. Thank you for a nice class. Since this is the last class of this course of Lam Rim, I wanted to ask you about the relationship between Bodhichitta and wisdom of emptiness, because Bodhichitta came before, and wisdom of emptiness is the last topic. Does that entail that if we have some basis in Bodhichitta, then that will make wisdom of emptiness more meaningful? But I understand also that there's a discussion that sits also in the reverse, that having wisdom of emptiness can help us with the Bodhichitta, because
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. This is a good question. Thank you, Abelardo. Bodhichitta and the wisdom of emptiness. What I would suggest is that they go for both. Go for both. Why should you be selective? Say if somebody's giving you, say the $100,000 and another person giving you 100,000 euros, go for both. Right? Don't say that I'll go for this, I'll quit this one. No, go for both. And we can go for both. We can study emptiness, we can study bodhicitta, we can practice bodhicitta, we can study bodhicitta. We can study bodhicitta, we can study emptiness. We can practice bodhicitta, we can practice the wisdom of emptiness. And usually we do bodhicitta retreat. Nowadays, the bodhicitta retreat, the earlier we do in many places. Now with the COVID, we cannot do that. Bodhicitta retreat is a group study retreat. So where we have everything included within 10 days. Now, the standard duration is like 10 days. Within 10 days, we sit together, we study together, we eat together, and we are in the same place. It's more like a residential program. For 10 days, we have all these programs. The Four Seals, Bodhicitta, the two methods, and the wisdom of emptiness, and the meditation, and in fact, all the facets of the Dharma practice intact within 10 days. So that we do. And in terms of timing, usually the one that we do in Root Institute in Bodh Gaya, that becomes more relaxed, and of course the place is very holy, where the Buddha, compassionate Buddha, attained Buddhahood. So this is what we do usually in the month of November and December. This one. Then another one is in France, Paris in Cultivating Center. Again, we do that in more relaxed form too. And then we do the same in other places as well. And one in Deer Park Institute in Himachal. They also, we do it more relaxed. And also in Pune. In Pune, there's one place, the Dharmadhatu. Sureshi. Sureshi was there for this retreat. Vajradhatu. Vajradhatu Center, again, is a beautiful place there. We do the program there also. Likewise, we did in several places. We did in several places, and also in Israel, we do that. And otherwise, in other places, we do just teachings. Whereas in this place, we do the Bodhicitta retreat, where all these facets are intact. We learn how to touch all these areas as equally important. So, Abelardola, you can be a part of it. Are you good? Anybody? Okay, sitting Yang Junla.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So does
Welcome.
Bodhicitta alone lead to enlightenment? Because I don't know. I was reading this book by His Holiness. I don't know if he mentioned, I could be wrong, that he said that Bodhicitta could, will eventually lead to enlightenment. And I don't know if that includes wisdom of emptiness or...
Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay, before I respond to Sri Anjanla's question, the emptiness which I did today is just within like almost 40 minutes, we completed, which means that Buddha remained 49 days silent without giving teachings, saying that this is very profound teaching, and he remained silent. He did not. He remained silent for 49 days. So the point is that don't expect that this is the emptiness. It's just a intro. Let's not forget it. And if you felt that, oh no, it simply went past my head, if this word comes to your mind, I would suggest that instead of feeling demoralized, I would ask you to feel the great joy. Rejoice in this, because this is not easy. This is a complicated topic. So I should not take it lightly. I must study it more intensely. This determination, it should help us to boost your determination to undertake a more serious studies and reflection, rather than feeling discouraged, right? We can't expect to attend 45 minutes lecture on quantum physics, and then you give up. I'll not study quantum physics, or expecting that you understand quantum physics within 45 minutes. Don't expect that. Likewise, relativity theory. Keep in mind that we have to study. We should be consistent. We should have the passion to learn. Finally, keep in mind that I don't want suffering, and suffering is all because of my own ignorance, being sucked up in the dream of ignorance. I must get out of this. For this is the only way. This is the only way. Okay, now going back to Sri Anjula's question about whether or not the Bodhichitta alone can take you to Buddhahood. Okay, let's say that let's say that proper education can the problem only with your studies can you become a Nobel laureate in physics. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Only with your studies. Okay, which means you don't need food. You don't need food. Only studies. You don't need food. Or you don't need clothes. Or you don't need shelter. Okay, so the point is that the study is the invariable factor. It does not exclude others. Other factors are required, but studies, that is the invariable factor, indispensable factor required for one to, if one is to become a Nobel laureate in physics, then you have to do this. No compromise with this. Likewise, Bodhichitta, no compromise. With the Bodhichitta, if you want to become a Buddha. So, Bodhichitta, okay, no compromise. Then, like food, what do we need? We need emptiness. And emptiness Bodhichitta alone? No, we need samadhi. We need so many things there. Yeah. Okay, Sri Angela, I can see that your enthusiasm is there. There's tremendous enthusiasm. Just keep up. Very good. Any more questions? Huh?
Yes, Geshe-la, can I
yes,
ask?
Professor Renugaji.
Anji, good evening. Thank you very
Yes,
much
Professor Renugaji.
for your teachings.
Welcome.
I was just wondering about your example of the pink flower.
Oh,
Objectively, whether it exists or not, or whether it exists relatively or absolutely, conventionally or ultimately, how do I relate to the fragrance of the flower?
okay.
How do I relate the pinkness of the pink flower?
A pinkness of the pink flower or the fragrance of the flower?
Yeah.
How do you relate? What do you
Yes.
mean relate? Relate to that as the objective
whether-
real?
Whether the flower is objectively real or not, the fragrance still stays with me.
Okay, whether the flower is real or not, but the fragrance is there, you cannot deny this, and the pinkness is also there, you cannot deny this. Is what you're saying? Very good, thank you. So now the manner in which we did the analysis, with the flower, you can do the same thing with the fragrance of the flower. You can do the same thing with the pinkness of the flower. And the pinkness of flower, I would say, is relatively easy. Pinkness of the flower. Because the pinkness of the flower, the moment you split the atoms, you see the flower in the form of the atoms, color makes no sense. Color is simply the rays from the light source hitting the flower, and this flower, what we call as pink flower, is not happy with the pink flower, pink color. So it reflects the pink flower, pink color. He's not happy with the pink. All the other colors, the flower is so happy. It keeps the flower, the color, other colors, and reflect the pink color. And we see it as pink. We call it pink. So besides what is reflected from the flower, if you go there, there's no pink there. There's no pink there from the point of view of the science. Now with the, let's say with the fragrance is going to be very exciting topic. Fragrance, you smell it. So what is this fragrance? Say something goes, some atoms from the flower hits your no sense. It hits your eyes, no fragrance. Only when it hits your nose, then you feel the fragrance. What is that fragrance? That's very interesting. That's very interesting. So there's no fragrance there actually. What is happening is that there are some atoms there. Atoms there from the flower. It moves towards your nostrils. It enters the air, and then it hits the nerves, nose nerves, which are receptive to the smell. And then this goes passes the information to the brain, and the brain is purely mechanical. It does not have the capacity to feel the fragrance. So then this brain activates a part of the mind with, oh, it's a sweet fragrance. So the mind is one which feels fragrance. There's nothing fragrance really there. It's how your mental consciousness interprets it. This is amazing phenomena. This is amazing phenomena. Yeah, the fragrance. And so likewise the pinkness, and then atoms, even the atoms, you can go further. The way Ashi said it, even the atoms, you see that the electrons, protons, neutrons. What is electron? Just a bunch of waves, and a wave of energy. So this one, which part of the energy? The first part, second, third. Again, the whole concept of what we call as energy again dissolves in this ultimate analysis. This is a very interesting, the area of analysis. Okay, very good. Surishimati. Tinsi Dazila.
Yeah, hi, Kushla. I'm
Yes.
just wondering, the first 40 minutes of your teaching, is it actually related to quantum physics?
Tinsi Dazila, are you the doctor, Tinsi Dazila?
Yes.
Oh, from Malaysia?
Yes.
Yes, please. Nice to hear again.
Yeah.
Okay, Tinsi Dazila, please tell me, what's your question?
Okay, the first 40 minutes of your teaching, is it related to quantum physics?
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's very interesting part. In fact, the quantum physics on the one hand, then the Buddhist philosophy on the other hand, we see that the Buddhist philosophy, the manner in which I explained to Purungji about the 5 layers of emptiness, and quantum physics, it's the primarily about in the absence of the observer. Observed makes no sense. In the absence of observer, observed makes no sense. In the Buddhist philosophy, in the absence of the projector, projected makes no sense. It's a matter of the vocabularies. Vocabulary is different. Don't just mix up the vocabularies. Keep the vocabularies as the manner in which the traditions use in their own ways. Now the point is that in the absence of the observer, observed makes no sense, which means, say, the independent of the observer, then observed does not exist. If this is how we explain it, then this concept, emptiness of independent observed, when you relate this to the Buddhist philosophy, this understanding, and this is again a discovery made. It is not the invention, it's a discovery made. So this discovery, the phenomena of the emptiness of the emptiness of the observed, independent of the observer. So this concept, which the Niels Bohr and the Heisenberg and so forth, what they discovered, this phenomena existed way before they existed, way before they were born. But nobody, the Newton, he could not discover that. Now, so this phenomena which existed way before that, and also the Buddha discovered, he did not invent. He did not invent this concept of the emptiness of objective existence, independent of the subject. This was not what the Buddha invented. This is what the Buddha discovered. So these two concepts, they say, how do they, where do they fit? Do they fit so squarely, or what is that? So usually what I say is that the person, it is best, rather than, for example, a Buddhist philosopher, just hearing what the quantum physics they are saying, okay, this fits into this. No, quantum physics is not that easy. And quantum physics also, oh, Buddhist philosophy, what are you saying? Subjectivity, okay, it fits into quantum physics. No, it cannot be done like this. The best would be like this young scientist, Tinzi Rabgala here. Raise your hand. Yes, he looks so young. Yes, he's young, but he's a brilliant physicist. He did his PhD from MIT, if I'm not wrong. He did his PhD there. Yes.
I did my undergrad there, Geshe-la. I did my PhD
Undergrad
from
there.
Michigan.
Where did you do a PhD?
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay, good. So what I'm saying is that, like this, somebody who is really thorough in physics and then studying the Buddhist philosophy so thoroughly, and they'll be in a position to see where the quantum physics concept of the emptiness of the observed, independent of the observer, fits into which category of the Buddhist concept of the emptiness. So this is how it works. So what I would say is that there are great parallels. There are great parallels, and we should not go too fast, or we should not rashly conclude that okay, it fits into here, without really being thorough in these concepts. So that's very important. And thank you for bringing this up. This is very important. In other words, the Buddhist philosophy of emptiness and the quantum physics, these two are they go in great parallel pertaining to the element of the subjectivity, observer. And the Buddhist philosophy of emptiness and the Einstein's relativity theory, they go in great parallel pertaining to the how the absence of the absolute reality, the things existing only with frame of reference, only with respect to the frame of reference, independent of the frame of reference, then the things don't really exist, like time, space. So the relativity concept in Einstein's relativity theory and R.N. Nagarjuna's concept of the relativity in R.N. Nagarjuna's philosophy, there is a very specific the topic, the title. If the title is the relativity, mutuality of relativity, and in Einstein it is the general theory of relativity and special theory of relativity. In R.N. Nagarjuna's philosophy, it is the mutuality of relativity. This is amazing. So we can see great parallel there. Yep, good. Thank you, Tazila. Okay, any more questions? Okay, Chudala.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Mary Geshe. Geshe-la, quick question. The Samadhi Vajra Sutra you mentioned today, what is it called in Tibetan?
Okay, Ting is Gebo. Ting is
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ting is Do. This is a very popular sutra. Yeah, Ting is Do. Okay, anybody else? More questions? No. Okay. The Tinzi Rabgala, yes, and then there's another question from the YouTube. Okay, first let's do the YouTube question.
There's a question from YouTube chat box. His name is Karmala, talking about the four essentials. The essential number 3 and number 4, are they similar to saying form is emptiness and emptiness is form?
Okay, of the four essentials, essential number 3 and number 4, are they similar to the what you find in Heart Sutra when the Buddha, where it says the form is empty and emptiness form? These two, can we equate these two with the essential number 3 and number 4? Answer is no. Answer is no. The form is empty. The first one. The four essentials, they are the means. The four essentials, they are the means to get to the first of the four lines in Heart Sutra. Form is empty. The four essentials will take you to understand that part. Form is empty. Thank you. Okay, Tinzirabwala.
Geshe-la, Geshe-la. I was pondering over what you mentioned earlier regarding the fourth essential point. So you stated that the emptiness of the objectivity of the object is the objectivity of the object. I think you used
That is
flower
not
as an example.
that is not the fourth point. That is not the fourth essential.
Okay, but you did make that
That is the
statement,
conclusion.
and okay, that was the conclusion.
Yes.
And at a first glance, this seems like a paradoxical statement because you're in the first half, you're negating
Yes.
the objectivity of the object, but then you're saying that negation is the objectivity of the object.
Yes.
And so I wanted to clarify my understanding of the statement. The first part or the first objectivity seems to be referring to an affirmation of a substantial presence, that there is a objectively real object there. And then the second objectivity, which is the emptiness itself, seems to be just a mere negation, that there is no affirmation at all. Would that be a correct understanding, or is there anything else?
Okay. Tenzin Ragwala, thank you so much. This is this requires more reflection. And if you really appreciate this, not just not just a play of words, number one, not just okay, this first part of objectivity means that, second part objectivity means that, just trying to interpreting you in your own ways. Instead of that, and instead of playing with the words, you read this, you just utter this, and then there's a deep sense of awe, profound awe comes to you. You understood it. So till that point, if the awe is not coming, the way, the manner in which the quantum Niels Bohr said, if you study quantum physics, and if you're not shocked by it, you have not understood quantum physics. If you study quantum physics and you are not shocked by it, which means you have not understood quantum physics. So what I'm saying is that this is something which you continue to explore. Conclusion part. Conclusion meaning you have to go through the first four. Without the first four as the pillar, you will not get the conclusion. So the conclusion part is very important, and it'll for this you need one explanation given by given by Lama Tsongkhapa, pertaining to the Acharya Chandragiri, the text. So what Lama Tsongkhapa said is that what does it mean by objectivity, right? The way and the manner in which you said. The first objectivity may refer to this. Second objectivity, the first objective may refer to the what is the object negation. Second objective may refer to the emptiness. This is how you are interpreting it. So Lama Tsongkhapa, he just explored what does it mean by objectivity? What does it mean by intrinsicality? In other words, emptiness for intrinsicality is the intrinsicality of the entrance of the object. So what exactly does mean by intrinsic reality? Okay, I'll just give you a clue, and then you explore. Of course, you need the four pillars. Without the four pillars, you cannot do the roof, right? The conclusion is the roof. They say how much money I have? I have no money. They say, how wealthy you are? I have no money. You're getting it? So you ask me, how wealthy are you? I said, I have no money at all. I'm homeless. I have no money at all. Okay, now you are examining the extent of my wealth, how much wealth I have, right? If you ask me what is the extent of wealth that I have, No wealth is my wealth. No wealth, no wealth is the extent of my wealth. You're getting it? So you're looking for what extent of wealth I have. That is what and then if whatever you get, that is my wealth. Right? So what I say is that, what's the extent of your wealth? No wealth is the extent of my wealth. You're getting it? No wealth is the extent of my wealth. No objectivity is the objectivity of the object. Okay. I've got to get something. I don't know, he got the example or he got the reality. I don't know. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Should we continue or, I mean?
Oh, okay, there's one, Siri Yangjun La.
Sorry, I don't want to take up all your you guys' time, but I just wanted to like it's maybe like a comment. So like I'm stuck when I'm contemplating, especially like it's like I can break down a flower all the way to proton and electrons, and then I'm like, okay, so what? And then like I keep doing the same thing over and over again, and then I feel like just like, okay, I'm stuck. I don't know where to go from there.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So the Siri Yangjun, my question to you is, you have been doing this over and over again. Over and over again for how many years?
No, not
Over
years.
Over and over again for how many years?
Not like just not years. Just
Oh,
for
not
some time,
years.
like,
How many months?
yeah, maybe a few months. But it's just the same question every time, and I'm not going anywhere. So I
Okay.
feel like,
So the
okay, this
point
is not
is that
working.
if you could remember what I said earlier, so in fact, thank you so much for bringing this up. And the danger of this, why the Buddha remained silent for 49 days, is because of this reason. So we need extensive studies. We need extensive studies. So what we suggest is that, in fact, this is the right time. Anybody who's interested to study more of this, about emptiness, about bodhicitta and so forth, Tibet House, this is the great opportunity, because the still there's a window left for the enrollment of the program. I don't know if you're enrolled. The program, Nalanda Diploma Course. Actually, it is not my job to advertise. It is Tenzin Domala's job. Our secretary, the program coordinator's job. Is not my job. Now I have to say this. The point is that still there's the possibility for the enrollment. Enrollment will remain open till 31st of August. And after this, sorry, nobody can get in. So this, because that people come with the late admission, we deliberately kept it open till 31st of August. Still, we have another like 9 days. So if you're interested to go further, then this would be the best option as of now. And there are other benefits also. I don't want to go into detail with this, because after this usually it's going to be 1.5 years program, Nalanda Diploma course. This year, the third batch, we deliberately made it 10 months, for the reason that the people who are enrolled there, they can catch up with the next program, which is Nalanda Master's course, which is 4.5 years course. For this course, only if you have done Nalanda Diploma course, you are entitled to the Nalanda Master's course. If you're not done any of the Nalanda Diploma course, the people are not entitled to the Nalanda Master's course. And that is going to be a very comprehensive course, which is in the monastery universities. They study for 10, 20 years. And we are trying to complete this within 4.5 years. So in order to accommodate all those people who are waiting. Nalanda Diploma course batch 1, batch 2, they're all waiting for this. And batch 3, just after the completion, they can move to the next course. So there are lots of benefit there, and it's all happening online. So anybody can enroll to this course. Just it's still open there, yeah. And for the students and the monastics, there is concession, and even the fee is very, very, very subsidized already for everybody. Okay, this says if you're really interested, there's a passage there. Yeah, still we have another 9 days. Are you good? Good. Okay. So with this, I really like to thank number one, the Mr. Bhaskarji, who is the president of Ngari Gazeling Buddhist Center in Guwahati, Assam, and also like to thank Farizala, who is also a part of, who is the member secretary of the center in Guwahati, the same center, and who are also part of Nalanda Master's Course Tibet House. And we also have amongst the executive members, Mrs. Chumgila, we have Dr. Mona Lisa ji, we have Mr. Bidyut ji, we have Ms. Bonida ji, we have Mr. Kagen ji, we have Mr. Jugandhar ji, and all these very dynamic members are there, which makes this center, who make this center extremely vibrant. And of course, this center was being blessed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and by Guru Rinpoche. So this is how this center has been, although very new center, but very dynamic. And all of us, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to the center, and then this center really needs support. Although there are these very dynamic members there, given that it's a very new center, the center needs support. So you can support in any possible manners by giving suggestions, in some cases finance, in some cases in kinds, in whatever way you like to support. I really appreciate the extending support to this center. And all these members, they're just doing it purely as volunteers, and they're not being paid for anything. So this is a great service to the Dharma. I really appreciate all of them. And the Ngari Gazin Center and Tibet House, we collaborate in many programs, particularly science and Buddhist philosophy conferences. And later on, we can invite the young scientists like Inzirabkala and others. It just, why not be a part of Ngari Gazeling yourself, Ngari Gazeling Center yourself? There will be a great service. And then Guwahati is a very beautiful city. Why not you make a visit and have a cup of tea in the center and give your opinions? Yeah. So this is what I'd like to share with you. And and thank you, each and every one of you. Finally, let us not forget. And also I should not miss to thank Venerable Tenzin Leksola, who took the initiative to teach this, and major part of this program was taught by Venerable Tenzin Leksola. I should not miss to thank him. And he's again another very instrumental figure, a teacher, instrumental in the supporting Ngari Gazeling Center. So I congratulate and I request Venerable Tenzin Leksola to continue supporting by giving teachings there and supporting the center. Okay, so thank you, each and every one of you.
Geshe, this is Fariza
Yes.
here.
Yes, Farizala, the member secretary of the center, please.
Geshe, I just want to extend my gratitude to you for really these precious teachings which you've given, and I'm sure everyone here would agree that from these teachings which we've received today, we'll have many points to reflect on. So this concludes the teaching programs, which was covered in 10 sessions. And like Geshe, you also told us that, you know, these topics are such a deep, we need a very deep understanding. So this 1 hour, 2 hour, of course, I agree with you, it is very short. And therefore, I highly encourage each one of you to enroll in NDC or in NMC. I mean, of course, you pass the NDC, then go to NMC, because I've been a part of NMC. It
Maybe
is
some of you may be wondering what is NMC,
Oh,
NDC.
sorry.
The Farizala, she is very familiar with this, so you may get lost. What is NDC, NMC? NDC means Nalanda Diploma Course conducted by Tibet House. NMC means Nalanda Master's Course conducted by Tibet House.
I'm so sorry. It is a Nalanda diploma course and Nalanda master's course because personally, if you all ask me, I have really benefited with NMC and Nalanda master's course with Tibet House. Although I don't know how much I understand, I mean, what goes in my head, but what I can say, it makes a lot of sense. And what each of you are asking the questions, it will get clearer when you do a very structured kind of study. So I have really benefited, and it actually shows the benefit. It shows, I mean, my near and dear ones tells me about it, that, you know, it reflects probably, I don't know. So that's what I want to encourage you and inspire you, if I may say so. And so Geshe-la, I, along with you know, Angel, all the team members, would really want to thank you. Thank the Tibet House team, especially Tenzing Dumala, for doing all the background work silently. Thank you, Tenzing Dumala, and of course, Venerable Lexokla for all the teachings they have, you know, he had conducted. So this concludes these Lam Rim teachings, and I thank each one of you present here, all the 40 participants, and I hope this Lam Rim teachings has really benefited you in some way, and then hope it will benefit others by whatever you have studied. And so thank you very much, each and every one of you.
Okay, thank you so much, the Farizala, Ishilhamullah, thank you so much. We will do a quick dedication prayer on the basis of the screen text through screen sharing. Meanwhile, let us dedicate, no doubt we have accumulated so much merit by the series of classes and all the merits that we have gathered. Let us dedicate them, one, to the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the true source of joy and happiness on this earth. That is wishes that he lives long, and that is wishes be fulfilled spontaneously. And also let us dedicate the merits that's gathered, that the teaching on Bodhichitta and the wisdom of emptiness, the teaching on Lam Rim, flourish and thrive in the minds of all the people. And let us also pray that the people who died due to COVID-19 and people who they died otherwise as well, that they take a favorable birth of meeting with the Dharma of the Bodhichitta and the wisdom of emptiness. And all those in the hospitals, all those in the homes who are bedridden because of the COVID and otherwise as well, let us pray that they all recover very soon to meet with their family members, to really feel the joy of being in a family. And let's pray that finally, that the self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude in the minds of all the beings are being exterminated completely by the power of the teachings of the interdependency, the emptiness, through the compassion of the Buddha Shakyamuni, that these teachings spread in the minds of all the beings. And let me personally dedicate the merits thus gathered, that each one of you, through a concerted effort in the practice of the emptiness, wisdom of emptiness, bodhicitta, may you soon see the dawn of these two actually within your mind stream, that each one of you becomes such a reliable guide to lead all other dear sentient beings towards ultimate happiness. So with this mind, let us say these verses together. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samadhi too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I might follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these rules of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the Buddhas who appeared in 3 times so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. Chanjo samjo rembo che ma ge pa nam ge gyoro che ge ba nyam ba me ba ya kone kondo pe vara sho. May the Supreme Bodhichitta that is not arrest and arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase forevermore. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I truly remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may Aquila attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all beings without exception into that enlightened state. I dedicate the merits thus gathered towards the realization that is in the prayers of all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of 3 times, and to the upholding of the Dharma of teaching and realization. May I in all lives, through the force of this merit, never separate from the 4 wheels of the Mahayana vehicle, and accomplish all the stages of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, perfectly in the 2 stages. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Triple Gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddhahood in my heart. By the power of practicing and subjugating to you, may all beings be free from sickness, poverty, and conflicts, and may Dharma and auspicious proliferate in all the places where we abide. The path of the union of emptiness and compassion is loosely explained by the protector of both the Dharma and the beings of the land of snows. With the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso, we supplicate you that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds of the negative forces of humans and non-humans who hereby manage through perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas be totally vanquished through the power of the truth of the 3 jewels. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of stations and the paths, may I will attain the state of Vajratara. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the Manjushri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings on dependent origination in particular, even across my life. Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisvatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisvatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Welcome.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Geshe-la.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tashidele.
Geshe-la. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Geshe,
you. Thank you, Mary Gazelle.
Other
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.